Hello, school family. Happy Sunday. The weekend seemed to go by like this, and starting tomorrow, we will be having another week of school. So I just want to say thank you again as we're continuing to go on this virtual journey together. It's definitely a challenge, but I am so amazed at how well our students are doing, and I'm just so thankful for your continued support. We had a couple good laughs this week with technology, some of my parents that were helping, and me trying to also get some things done to get our students to be a little bit more tech savvy when it comes to some of the resources and the tools that we have. And sometimes things go to plan, and it's great, and other times they do not. And like we talked about before, we just kind of got to go with the flow. But overall, I think we've had a great experience so far, and we're going to continue to work for that. So I'm just very thankful for you. So I really appreciate it. So this week, as we start with our learning, we are going to be dipping a little bit further into kindergarten standards. So you're going to really see this showing up in reading this week. Math is going to continue to look similar because we're building on those number sense skills before we jump into those harder activities. And then we're going to continue still to do some conversation about conscious discipline and all of the different social emotional pieces that go into that. But there's going to be less of a piece where we're really formally teaching it, and it's more just going to be embedded in the different things that we're doing. So we want to see our students start to make connections to some of that language that we're using in everyday life and in some of the things that we're doing as we're reading books or we're doing math or phonics or any of those subjects that we see them naturally and organically wanting to use some of that language. So we'll continue to talk about it, but it won't be as explicit as you were seeing it before. So this week for reading, we are doing What About Bear? And what I really love about this book is there are hardly any words in it. So it leaves a lot of room for interpretation of what the children think the characters are doing. So our first standard we're going to be working on together is asking and answering questions, which is definitely a challenging skill for our students to do. You probably notice at home your student might say to you, I have a question, and you say, okay, ask, and then they end up just telling you something. That is so developmentally appropriate, and I don't want you to think, I think sometimes when parents or guardians are listening in on our students' learning, they think, oh my goodness, what answer are you giving? Miss Walker's probably wondering, like, what is going on? It's not a big deal, and it is totally normal. These are all things that happen at school at the beginning of the year that are behind closed doors, and you don't get to see all those kind of struggling beginning stages of them really being able to cultivate good answers and share good discussion. But all of it is normal, I promise you. So we're going to see these standards that we're working on showing up all year long, but we will visit those standards with different texts. So this week is What About Bear? The next week will be a different book, but you're always going to hear me coming back to that main objective of asking and answering questions, characters and setting, main topic and key details, major event. There's all of these standards that we need to work at mastery in, and we will get there by visiting, using the different texts that we're going to see throughout the school year. So What About Bear is a fiction story. We're also going to start talking more about that, things like author and illustrator, so that that language that I'm using becomes innate in our students and they start using it naturally as well. So that's for shared reading this week. Again, it's going to be a little bit more in depth with them answering questions and not so much with just me sharing. A lot of that comprehension piece that comes along with it. Okay. In phonics this week, we're going to start to move away a little bit from so much of the rhythm and rhyme and more that seems more like play-based learning that we're doing and move more toward honing in on our letter focus. Now, for many of my students, they already know their letters. So when we're in small group, that might happen very quickly and we're moving on to the next thing. Or we might be working on an accelerated activity with those letters. But we're going to strive to do 2 letters a day, work on letter formation, and then do some varied activities depending on where our students' learning is with phonics, and then continue to do some of the things that are a little bit more fun that the students really get into that are just really cool for routines. So that's for phonics this week. In math, we're going to continue to work on those sets within 10. My one group that I'm working with, we have tried a few activities with numbers within 20, but then we also work this week on decomposing numbers. So having a total or a sum, and pulling those numbers apart to think of each number individually. Eventually, this is going to turn into them creating addition problems. We'll also work on subtraction, all those things. But these are those very early stages where they're doing adding, they're doing subtracting, they're doing all of those pieces that are so important for skills later down the line, and they don't even realize they're doing it because we're doing it through different games. So I'm going to continue to share those links. We're going to continue to explore and try to have our students do some things independently, but then for certain activities that's just not possible. We'll stay together and we'll work through those things, okay? And that's pretty much it. I'm really noticing that our students are starting to pick up on those routines, even virtual, and we're not together. They know my expectations, which makes me so happy, and they really are doing a great job. So I told them before I would jump off of here today, I was going to teach you the Twinkle Twinkle song. So if you were around on Friday, you heard this one. This is one of our, we call it an I Love You ritual. We do so many of these, but this one is one of my personal favorites. It's a part of the Conscious Discipline program, and it's to the tune of Twinkle Twinkle, but the words are different. So what we usually do at school is a student and a student partner up, and it is all about the human touch and connection. Now, we know in the world we're living in right now, it'll be a long time before we're actually doing these kinds of things in person because we're not allowed to be that close to one another. But this is something that, for me, in my household, even with Michael only being 10 months old, I love to do this with her. There's just that love and peace that comes with doing it. Just kind of brings a calm over our students, and that's what I love so much about it. So, certain parts of it sound like Twinkle Twinkle, but then the words are going to change out. So when you do this, you're going to be facing your child and you will be doing it to each other. So it starts like this. You get your hands out in the front, and students, you might remember this, so maybe you can help your moms and dads. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Here's where the words change. What a wonderful person you are. Friends, you could substitute those words in and say, wonderful mommy, wonderful daddy, wonderful sister, wonderful brother. It can be anything you want. Parents, same things for you. What a wonderful child you are. What a wonderful daughter, son. So let's start over. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, what a wonderful person you are. Now, in this part, you're going to touch your child's cheeks and eyes, and they're going to touch yours. Big, bright eyes and rosy cheeks, intelligent person from head to feet, and you touch theirs, head to feet. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, what a wonderful person you are. So I hope you like that one. You can always go back and rewind if you want and watch it again. It's also a really good time to just have that one-on-one connection with your students. I encourage that the kids on Friday to find a person on the camera and stare at them while they did it. Not the same thing, obviously, but it still leaves your heart just feeling very warm and happy. So I suggest maybe doing this before bedtime. You could even modify it and do it in bed. It definitely is something that's just enjoyable for our students and for them to know how much we care about them and how much we love them. So that's all I have for you today. It is 2 o'clock. I want you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 9. Mwah. Have a good night.